This is the Unstarving Musician. I'm Rabanzo. This podcast features conversations with independent music artists and industry professionals, all intended to help independent music artists better understand the marketing, business, and creative processes that empower us to do more of what we love: make music. Well, I didn't quite nail it on that one, but hey, that's half the fun of trying to do it. Well, I'm working in the new theme music and all, so I still haven't gotten the timing down perfect. Hey, the latest listener survey is out, and I'm interested in your thoughts. You can help me shape the future of this podcast and all things Unstarving Musician by participating. It's a single question survey, so it's super easy to complete. And there will be a drawing for a copy of the Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs. Available on paperback if you're in the U.S. or Kindle. If you are abroad or outside the U.S. like me, you can get the e-reader version of your choice. You can just let me know. The deadline for the drawing or to get your survey entry in is May 31st. That would be this coming 2023, May 31st. You can do the survey by going to unstarvingmusician.com/survey. That would be great if you participated. I would love it. I'm going to be off next week. No new episode. It's my birthday next week. And I'm going to see family and friends. Going for a little weekend getaway. I'm rehearsing for new performances, which has nothing to do with my birthday, but I'm going to be doing some more performance videos. And kind of building a vocal resume, if you will. Working on that. I've got a couple of them out so far. You can see the latest one on my artist YouTube channel at Robanzo. I did a cover of Tiny Dancer with my friend September Smith on piano. It was a lot of fun. It's a modest little video, but I think it starts to build some groundwork for getting samples of my singing out there. And lastly, I'm working on a piece about booking better gigs. It's a lot of stuff I've said before, including in the Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs, but this one will be a bit more in-depth. The plan is to drip that out in multiple liner notes emails, the Unstarving Musician newsletter, that is, which you can sign up for, by the way, at unstarvingmusician.com/liner notes. But eventually, it'll be a new article or series of articles on the Unstarving Musician website. So either way, you'll be able to find it here in the near future. I've been thinking more and more about AI, like a lot of us are, and the future of it on music. It makes me sad mostly, but many people will find excitement in what it brings. Outside of music, though, it's mostly concerning to me. The pace at which it's moving seems like something we're not ready for. What do you think? Let me know. unstarvingmusician.com/feedback. Let me know. There's all kinds of ways to contact me there. I'd love to hear what you have to say about AI, the future of AI and music, those two things together. I know the future. I've heard the future of AI in general from all directions. My guest for this episode is alternative new punk artist Krosst Out. He has a release just around the corner, a new release coming out May 12th, which is like about a week away. It's called This the New Shit. I tell you, these new punk kids and their profanity. The single is the first of many to come from the rap rocker Krosst Out, with the announcement of his third album, I Had a Dream, I Didn't Have Eyes, which is due out later this year. That's the name of his new album, I Had a Dream, I Didn't Have Eyes. That's pretty cool. The first time we spoke was in March of 2018. This is his second time on the podcast. And then Krosst Out had recently released his first album. That conversation was for Unstarving Musician episode number 43, which you can find on the website. I'll put a link in the show notes, of course. Since then, KO, I'm calling him that. I don't know if anyone calls him KO. You know KO, Krosst Out with a K. KO says he's grown as a songwriter, he's grown as a performer and a music artist. He also says his latest release is the perfect introductory track to his new sound and a new era he finds himself in musically. We talk about his new sound, his collaborations, and his collaboration wish list. The introspections of his lyrics, his tour plans, rethinking the music business, that is his rethinking of the music business and how to approach all this, his unconventional release strategy, and much more. I really enjoy talking to this guy. He's a pretty cool kid. I dig what he's doing. crossedoutmusic.com is where you can find all of his stuff, all of his socials. And now, here is me talking with Krosst Out. Man, I'm getting less and less tolerant of poor sound on the guest side, so I'm trying everything, I can think of to help them sort of be ready for it.
Yeah, it makes it like less listenable too for the just average listener,
Oh
right?
yeah. I mean, even in the best of scenarios, I mean, so there are some podcasts that just sound so amazing. So yeah. Anyway, I appreciate it. I appreciate all you did to get ready. So we are speaking almost exactly 5 years since the release date of your first interview for the Unstarving Musician. As you had pointed out, it's been almost 5 years.
I know it's crazy, right? Because I think we were talking, and there may have been just that delay of like the episode, so it came out like a little bit later. But I think it was right around that time that I was dropping a new song then, and yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. Well,
so
how have you been since then? A lot has happened.
a lot has happened, man. I mean, I've been good. It's been like uh learning and growing a lot as an artist and as a person, and um yeah, a lot of things have kind of just changed in like how I view myself as an artist as well. I feel like I was very like green when we first spoke, man.
That was like you had just released your first album, right? Or was it your second?
It was Life of the Party, and then this was like kind of the first real single after, or no, there was the second single after that. So it was still like super fresh, like off of Life of the Party. So yeah,
Yeah, amazing. And so now you are on the precipice of your third release, correct?
that's true.
Very nice.
Yeah, man.
Tell me about the inspiration for your new sound.
My new sound is sort of like it's just building off of what I've been doing since like all those years that we spoke. I've kind of always just been interested in doing rock with rap, and this is sort of just more exploring that avenue. There's some songs that are just really rap oriented, but in an experimental way of just getting more into the aggression of it. And I feel the more I write, the more I feel like I'm just more comfortable with myself. Like I don't always feel like things have to be super overly technical. It's just a way of expressing. But yeah, the sound is very much like, I guess if you were to describe it to someone, it'd be like Slow Tie or Joey Valence, like that sort of new punk rap fused type of stuff. A lot of live instrumentation, a lot of rock choruses with rap verses.
I like that. I love live instrumentation and rock. You probably remember that about me, but that sounds
Yeah.
like it's going to be cool. I listened to a couple of things of yours. One of them, the pre-release that you sent me, and it sounds really cool. I like it. I need to hear it some more to take in all the things that are happening. I think it was the second pass I had at it, and then I listened to Three Cheers, Bottle Boy featuring Polychuck and JBRD. That one came out a while back, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that one was a fun one. Yeah, Jaybird is that's his
Thank
like,
you. Thank you.
yeah. It's trendy to just remove all the syllable or the all of the vowels out of your name, so that's what he kind of did. But yeah, he's been doing some production, like he produced this one too, the one that I sent you, this the new shit, and then a couple of other tracks for the album. So I like working with sort of just the same producers for one project,
Sure.
or like one or two. so it kind of keeps things cohesive. But yeah, Bottle Boy is really fun, and it's still a fan favorite too.
How long ago did you put that one out?
Um,
Been more than a couple
July,
years? Okay.
yeah, July last year.
Okay. All right, let me back up for a second, and I want to come back to Bottle Boy, and I do want to talk more about your new release, but I wanted to ask how old you are now.
Yeah, I'm 30 now.
30, okay. And I know you probably feel old, that the time is music and time have passed you by, but it's not true. Uh, wow, yeah. So in 5 years, so okay. Yeah, you're sort of like we're starting to get a level head when we met the first time, age-wise, but you look super young, and I as soon as you answered the question, I was reminded that every time I speak to a young artist, yourself included, that they feel like they started late. Do you have that feeling?
Yeah,
Or-
totally.
I've been playing forever, but I don't know if you recall, or let's see, wait, I don't guess I'd actually released the two songs, the all of two songs that I published since we spoke last. And I've been playing for a long time. So hey, if I can feel not too late to the party, you certainly can.
Yeah, you hear stories of how like they've just been doing it since they were like 16, like releasing music. And I see kids like the Justice Hodges. I've done shows with him. He's Toronto. I say kid, but he's super talented. Him and I have collaborated on some stuff. But he's like 19, I think now, and I'm like, man, like what was I doing when I was 19? I was just being an idiot. So like yeah, I feel like I've got a lot of time to make up still, and yeah, it's
I can just picture it. You see yourself as the old man when you play with that guy.
I mean, I actually don't picture myself as an old man. I think we get called young a lot. Like people think that we're 23, and I'm gonna take it. Um, and I unless people ask, I won't say my age because there is like an ageism thing that goes on in music and hip hop and stuff. But Justice is just so technical with his guitar playing. Like you can just learn from everybody, regardless of their age. So I don't be like, my day, like that type of thing. No.
Sure. Are you still based in Toronto?
Mm-hmm.
How are things there?
They're all right. For during the pandemic, we moved to Montreal just because that's where Melodica is like was raised there, so she's got family and stuff. So we were there for 2 years or so, and
Wow,
then we
that's your
moved.
girl, right? Your partner?
Yeah, yeah. And so we did some stuff there, but Toronto just feels like home for the most part. There's a lot more to do music wise. There's a lot more shows happening. There's a lot more artists, and just our fan base has just been connected here. Like this, I've been able to do so much more stuff with so many more people just in the time that I've been here back than I was in Montreal. Maybe that's because of the pandemic, but I feel like it's just a bigger city and everyone wants to collaborate.
Sure. Last time we spoke, I was in Panama, and I call it a little bit of a music desert. It's not really, and that sort of probably would be hurtful to a lot of my friends who are there that do play music, but it's just not a densely populated country unless you're in, one of two cities. And even then, there are some challenges, and it's still not that densely populated. But when you're living out on the beaches, my wife and I were, there's just not a lot of players out there. And so we're in a town called Querétaro, Mexico now, and it is a much bigger city. It's a university town, and I've been struck by how many bands, musicians, and the talent here. So it does make a huge difference. And I've been talking about and am planning to have some conversations on some other podcasts about moving to new music markets. And I keep reminding myself I need to get out and go meet some more people, more musicians.
Yeah, that's crucial, man. I mean, yeah, I guess you sort of felt it the same way. Like, I'm not saying that like Montreal is at all like a music desert, but I feel like I just didn't really connect with the scene. It is very like it's very clicky in a sense of like, and even Polychuk, when we were working together, he's like, yo, like the city is hard. Like, the metal people don't mess with the rock people don't mess with the hip hop people don't mess with the poet. Like, it's just all divided. So
This
it's
is in
really hard.
Montreal?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
So that's what he was saying. But yeah, no, I mean, I want to get out and explore some different markets too myself, man.
Well, yeah, you know, and my whole venture into different markets has been just from moving, just the life adventure with my partner and wife. And there wasn't a lot of thought in the different times that we've done it that about music other than, well, I guess I'm going to take a little break here and go figure out what the scene is there. And yeah, if you're not careful, when you do it like I've done it, when you're just moving for the sake of moving, if you're not careful, you can lose a lot of time. But you know, even since, well, our first move was in like 99 and it wasn't to a different country, but in a way it was from the Dallas Fort Worth area of Texas to the San Francisco Bay Area of California, kind of like different countries. But even since we were in Panama, which we went there in 2016, it's just so much easier to do something on your own for a while. If you like, for me, I love to perform, but it's so much easier to do things on your own now. Everything's so accessible, from recording gear to video gear, and even collaborating online. It's rapidly changed, so that makes it really nice. Okay, I have a question about something I read in your press release.
Okay.
It says that you want to break the rules of what current music should be. And my question is, what does that mean to you?
There is sort of maybe like a stagnation in terms of what is going on, just mainstream wise. There's a select few artists that are doing something that I find interesting. For example, like Slow Tie, I find really interesting just because he's doing this punk rap movement, sort of just like sounds that are not, that you wouldn't find conventional. You know, like everyone knows like the rap rock thing, or like doing trap, but what if you just took all of your influences and merged them together, which I find that's all I do. And I'm always just trying to do something different. Like every song that I release is going to try and sound different, but still in the same crossed out vein. I think people, there was a thing that like Rick Rubin said, that was like, people don't know what they want to listen to, and that's what our job is. And so if you give people the option, they will just continue to listen to the same thing, right? My job as an artist is to help like push the barriers of sound and do something different, give something else to offer people as an alternative. And so that's sort of why I view breaking barriers of sound so important.
I love Rick Rubin, his interviews, and obviously he's done some great work in music. I was just listening actually to a new podcast of his. Okay, it has a strange name, and I can't remember. I never even heard the word before. I'm embarrassed to say. It's not music centric. So it was kind of interesting. I think I listened to his first interview on there, but I've listened to a lot of the stuff he's done on Broken Record, and I think I've heard him say that very thing that you just mentioned. And also, you made me think of like the problem of music discovery. I suppose that Spotify, for all the cool things it does, is sort of numbing our our discovery brain for finding music. And so I've heard on there a couple of different times from different musicians about how they find music a little bit, frankly, like old school ways to sort of find, local bands or just some more exciting things that they may not see in the curation of the streaming services.
Yeah, I found that too. There are some good things about Spotify. I found maybe like back in the day of Spotify, when it was kind of first new, it really had this whole discovery element to it. But now I think it's very much curated. And if you don't really, it's a very much like pay to play world now, is more so than it ever was. And yeah, and like I think there is this outus now, to go more organic or like boots on the ground type of deal. That's why I think like playing shows is so important, because with this whole culture of you could just do everything in your room, there's a lot of artists out there that do like have big followings on TikTok or Instagram, and that's all they've done, but they can't get out on stage and do a show. And that's where I find like the people I've collaborated with most have been I've met at shows. So
Yeah, that I agree. Very, very important. In fact, I one of the most exciting singers I've seen in a while, I met here locally in Mexico, and it was at one of her shows. And I've seen a couple of bands that she's in, and but I mean, you just you don't, sometimes you don't find those people if they're not publishing original music, but just like super talented. And obviously it's very exciting to see an original act in a small venue that you may have never heard about other if you hadn't gone out to that venue. Is there anyone that you haven't worked with yet or collabed with yet that you'd love to do so with in the future?
I mean, I got a list of people that like from like bigger artists to smaller artists.
That's a good idea.
uh yeah, I it's just sort of like a vision board of artists I want to work with. I was fortunate enough to have on cue on one of my on my last single before this one coming out, Anesthesia. On cue has been a huge influence on me sonically just throughout the past like years. One of my first shows actually was opening up for him like back in the day, so it was kind of cool, like a full circle moment to just have him on a song and have that stamp of approval though too of like, yeah, this song is good enough to have on cue on it. And he's he's been around the music industry for a long time, so that was cool. So things like that, I just keep a vision board of artists I want to work with. But yeah, I mean, there's still like local people I'm always itching to work with. This new project has a lot of features, a lot of people that I just wanted to showcase that maybe sort of feel the same way about like how like mentally where we're at, or like philosophically where we're at type of deal. And I think like they could bring something to the table. So usually my records have like maybe like one or two features and that's it, but this one has like most of the songs have features.
Yeah, that's nice. It seems like it would be a really fun way to work in terms of getting ideas and inspiration and encouragement and maybe getting a little push just because you're working oftentimes with people that you admire, right?
Yeah, and you learn things from people though too. Like I feel like I would never be able to do this when we first spoke. I've learned so much more about music production. Like I do all the arranging and sort of executive producing of my stuff now. Meanwhile, like before I was sort of falling on other people to help me out with that type of stuff. But and that's just through years of collaboration now of learning what works, what doesn't, what you want to, what sound you're kind of going for.
That's nice. Great, great skill to have. And you enjoy that aspect of it as much or somewhere close to the other parts, perhaps the performing or writing part?
I always enjoy the writing part more than like I could just write for days. But it is cool to have to go into the booth and then record all of your ideas and get that out. And yeah, there's certain elements that I enjoy more than others, but this has definitely been a real learning experience actually. This new record.
Your lyrics often come across, or the things that I've heard come across as personal and introspective. Is it difficult for you to share that part of your world or those parts of your world, or does it come naturally?
That was part of the growing process with phone calls with ghosts. Was before that I'm just sort of just dipping my toe in and like being like surface level, but I really wanted to explore going deep and going raw and no matter how much that might hurt me or like just being like completely candid, being an artist is exposing yourself to the world, and then there's things that like you talk about that people just wouldn't expect, and maybe it might upset people that like, oh, like why did you talk about that type of stuff. But it's just personal, and I think a lot of people, there's so many more people that feel the same way that you do that just are afraid to say those type of things, and they're thankful that you did. So it is difficult at times, to write about those type of things. But I think it's just like anything. The more you exercise writing raw and organic, it becomes easier to maybe not easier, but you're able to do it a little bit more and more.
Is the difficult part the actual writing part of it, or is it the sharing, or is it a little bit of both?
It'd be a little bit of both. There's just like topics that I mean, okay, so for example, my song Edges is a prime example of that. It's on Phone Calls with Ghosts, and it's like that is like it's a little bit embellished, but mostly not, because that's like all about how Melodica and I used to fight. Like we had fights and stuff, and it's it got pretty brutal at times. Sharing something like that is deeply personal, and you're like, for me, I like it. I like that song, but I will never perform that song. But I mean, that's the good part about doing music and releasing it, is it's sort of like you throw it out there and you can sort of hide behind the curtain of it. You're like, here's this. Everyone look at it, but don't look at me. Like just listen to the song, don't look at me. Take it up and listen to it. You don't even know what kind of life that will have with the listener as well, right?
Is that the one you said you'd never perform? Is it because it's just like too personal, or just doesn't seem like? Yeah, or is there another reason that you wouldn't?
There's a bunch of songs on Phone Calls with Ghosts I just wouldn't perform because of how personal it is. There's other artists that feel the same way too. There's a couple like really good songs, really personal songs that I like from other artists, and they're like, you can like that song, but don't expect me to ever play that song live. Like it's too much. I'm not doing it, and I'm in that same boat. Like I will never perform Edges. I don't really want to do background either, or black and white, because those songs are probably like the more personal ones that I don't want to.
Sure. Well, I'd never thought about that. And I'm sure many, if not all artists have that if they've written enough music. And perhaps, and well, clearly I don't recall ever hearing someone talk about this, and only having published a couple of songs, I haven't done enough to know, like, I'm not doing that. I haven't run into that yet. So that's interesting. Do you have any plans to tour once you've reached a point where that would make sense? And what, if any, concerns do you have about the economics of touring, which is sort of a thing now people think about a lot?
Yeah, it's definitely something you gotta think a lot about. I wanted to do some UK stuff last year, but it wasn't financially feasible at the time. But what I'm thinking about doing is, because tours are very expensive, there's a lot that goes into it. Being an artist is working within your constraints of a budget. What I would do is, I'm thinking about just doing like going to a city performing. So for instance, like we got a lot of fans in Dublin, and I would love to do a show in Dublin. So just flying out to Dublin 3 4 days, sort of like a mini holiday, do a show, and then fly back home. Then save up some more money, do a show in London, do the same thing. So that's sort of what I'm thinking strategically. Just do shows like that right now until things take off more.
Yeah, my understanding, and it makes complete sense. It's just gotten harder and harder because of the economy. Yeah, I was curious to know how you felt about it, but I think that's a good plan. I was just thinking for myself, if it was me trying to do it, I think the first thing I would look at is what I would consider friendly cities where I know people that would host me and any mini entourage I have with me, which is really probably just my wife. And also, where I know musicians who could even, be the band, like more like a blues player might do. And maybe, I don't know if this is the same thing in rap or hip hop where, well, you can travel with less musicians for sure, but also, I don't know if it's a thing in the genre. Like the thing with blues that has always really struck me as cool is that it has such a universal language in terms of its musicality, and so a blues artist can literally tour with pickup bands. Well, with numerous bands in different locations rather than trying to travel with a band, and they can pull it off pretty well because they know the right players in the right area. And again, there's this very universal language of it. But is does hip hop and rap by chance share that at all, or is it more that you can make the economics of it work out better because, well, I don't really have to always have a band per se, and I don't have to have a drummer if I don't want to.
Someone that I used to work for, they're a popular musician. Like, well, I just used to tour the world with my iPod, and like they had their b-boy, like dancer, like hype man behind them, and they would just hit play. So there's always, you could do that, but for me, the way I think I try to make myself stand out in a sea of rappers, because everyone's a rapper now, I hire musicians. I am Krosst Out, but then I'll have, like, my last show was with a full band. I had a bassist, a drummer, a guitarist, and it was a really great experience. Yeah, so I would probably do the blues route of, like, hiring or getting musicians on. At least like a drummer. You could tour the world with an iPod, but it's not gonna have the same effect. There is just like a live element when you have other musicians that you're working with. It's like a collaboration of energy that you're pushing out. It's so much more, right?
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And your live performances appear really energetic and even intense. How have you historically prepared for a show, and what's your mindset when you step on stage?
Well, when I was younger, I didn't really, I wasn't working out. I just kind of thought, like, I ran, like that was my idea of working out. But as I got older, there was like some really bad periods that were going on in my life, and it got to the point where it was like late 2008, I think. I was getting through like one to two songs and being out of breath. This can't happen, man. Like, my songs are energetic, and I can't be tired. So I really need to enhance myself physically. So since then, it's just been like a steady push to maintain like physical exercise. I'm going to the gym a lot more than I ever thought I would. Yeah, I mean, it feels good to go on stage and do that. And then also, Melodica has taught me a lot about singing because she's taken singing lessons. I've taken some. There's this whole catching your breath type of thing, not enunciating certain words or dropping certain words, picking things up. And it's just knowing your set more to be able to do that. Okay, so I don't have to rap every single word if I don't want to. All I gotta do is just like rap and then drop that, pick that up here because it's a live experience. If you want to hear something that's similar to the record, go listen to the record. But so that's how I've maintained the energy of my show is knowing what syllables or words to drop. I think just that's more of what's been developing and how I've just been able to maintain the energy of my live shows.
Yeah, so a very sensible approach to just taking care of yourself. I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. Years ago, it's been a while, but I I realized I'd seen him three or more times over my life, but Paul Rogers, one of the great rock and even blues singers. And I noticed in the live performances I saw, and then when I watch him on video, that he has these tricks that he does. And it's super powerful voice, but he has these tricks that he uses, kind of like what you're describing, in the way he's delivering the lyrics, the duration of certain lines, even, and sometimes it's a fraction of a second difference in maybe the duration of something. And it dawned on me like, wow, he does that to be able to do all these live shows and stretch the health of his voice out over a night or a tour or whatever. So I can see that that would be important. And again, it sounds very sensible on your part.
Yeah, there's a big part of, especially when you're doing like show after show after show, of not blowing your voice out, and that's really helped, because I think before I started doing that seriously, I'd finish a show and my voice would be sort of hoarse. But now it's like going from the diaphragm, or don't scream it. You don't have to scream these things. Like, you can use the microphone. You can pull away from the microphone when you have to yell, or like get up close. Like, there's a whole thing called dynamics, and it helps build the tension in the crowd too. People like dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the relatively short time that you've been publishing music, although you mentioned 2008 you were performing, so but I'm looking at like the last three projects that you've done. We'll call that the relatively short time, even if you were doing stuff, recording stuff long before then, or maybe have published things that I haven't even heard. But in the short time of these last three releases, what changes are you noticing within the music business that have you rethinking or reevaluating your approach to it all? Your approach to it all.
Back in 2018 when we spoke, TikTok wasn't a thing. So there's that. And then it's become a very content heavy world. And now my brain shifts from just doing music to how can I create content, what within still maintaining my brand of Krosst Out, like not just doing anything. So how can I make this feasible? And that's a lot more tiring. There was a world where you were able to just sit down and work on records and not have to worry about anything and let the music speak for itself. But now there's all of this mumbo jumbo and algorithms, and understanding where your audience is from, backends, analytics, all that sort of shit.
Crazy. It's so exciting for some people, and hopefully for you, it has been or will be. But at the same time, it's a bummer because because it's just a lot, right? But I guess it's a matter of focusing on something and just committing or testing and then committing, and like you said, understanding the analytics of it all. How are you using TikTok to in ways that you feel are have been beneficial or successful?
I kind of just post things into the ether. I have a general idea of what works and what doesn't. I mean, the problem is they're always changing the algorithm. So what works one week might not work the other week. And the hard part is they say to be consistent, like post 3, 4 videos a day. And you're like, do you understand how much time that takes? It takes so much time. So I much rather just focus on, like, there's days I'll just bank stuff and have like a bulk of drafts that I can just release. Or I have so much stuff from the past, like all my music videos or interviews that I've done or live shows. I just repurpose content. Repurposing content is so great.
I love hearing that. That's right. You do have a pretty decent body of work with regards to the content. So I could see that could work well for you.
Yeah, and some of it came out at a time where there wasn't any TikTok. So why would I not reuse that? And now with, like, you can use the same stuff from like TikTok on Instagram Reels, and then use that as YouTube Shorts, and they coexist, but they do different. They can move the needle in different ways. What works on YouTube doesn't always work on TikTok, and vice versa.
Yeah. Interesting. Who do you work with for your videos? The stuff that I'm sure you're using on TikTok as well, but let's just if we think about the world of YouTube or maybe Instagram. Actually, let's think about the full feature on YouTube. Who who do you work with make your videos, or what about the process is something interesting that you could share?
So I've done this thing, and up until I release the new song, I'm doing freestyles slash remixes every week. And with those, I film them. And so like the ones that I've been dropping up till this point, like you go on my YouTube or whatever, you'll see like fresh remixes within the past couple of weeks. I recorded those, I mixed it a little bit, and then edit it on my computer, then send it over to my phone. And I mean, the good thing about phones is that there's so many apps that you can use. I have an app that I'll use, and it auto generates lyrics. Sometimes you got to go in and just correct some of the spelling mistakes that it comes up with. Does all these animations, and you can just, all right, cool, I got this. And sometimes if it's like a 2 minute rap verse or freestyle or whatever, I can break it apart into two parts because YouTube shorts are only a minute. So then you have like two things of content, and it works really well. So in terms of who does my videos, I do those, and then I'll work with other people for music videos. So I was working with one guy for a long time before the pandemic, but he's since moved to California to work with a band, which is great. Like, good job. I'm happy for him. But then now I gotta find other people that I can trust with the vision of my video, and that it's always tricky sometimes.
Yeah. Tell me about your camera gear and any specifics you can share about the editing apps that you like to use. And when I say apps, anything you're using on your computer too is cool. It's all apps to me.
We During the pandemic, I say we, like Melodica and I, we bought a camera. So it's a Sony A 6400 built-in stabilizer, really good for the price. And then we have a tripod as well. So with things like that, I will set that up and I will use that camera. I'll film it, and then I'll align the audio. So I'll take the video from the camera, put it in my computer, go to iMovie. There's no shame in using iMovie. It's literally like, it doesn't, anything that it video work doesn't even require like that much work. We have Adobe as well, and like Adobe Premiere and Adobe like Photoshop for anything more intense that we've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But iMovie for me, for these freestyles, just works perfect. It's just cropping the video and aligning the audio, and then I can bounce that down, send that to myself on my phone. And then on my phone, there's an app. Sure, everyone has seen it if they use TikTok, called CapCut. CapCut is crazy. It's got all of these templates just for fun memes, but it's also like, if you pay for the pro version, you get so many more features of, like I said, you throw the video in there. It's I've already edited it to be the 9:16 frame, like the specific frame that TikTok wants. And then I'll just auto generate lyrics. I'll spend like, depending on however long it's, or like whatever the mistakes are, like 20 minutes or so fixing the lyrical mistakes, making sure everything is there. And then that's pretty much it. And then I have these videos ready to go. So I can bang one out. Well, I've been behind. I've banged it out in like an hour, shot it, put it on my phone, done it. So it's like clockwork now for me. It's pretty seamless.
Nice. Yeah, I was lamenting, as I often do, about my recording space. It's for podcasting. It's for doing any like drum videos or vocal videos I want to do. It's for recording drums or vocals or someone else, maybe, like some guitars or something. And it's also a rehearsal space. So it's a constant, reconfiguration for these different things I do. It's probably just a matter of additional gear, a lot of it just accessory type gear. But I've been thinking, okay, how can I just make this less time intensive of, having to reconfigure things? I just got to start thinking about the world of this room that way. So like, today, for example, like yesterday I was doing rehearsing for a performance video I want to do. And with all the best of intentions, I'm doing my pre-interview work for our conversation today. And with the best of intention, I would have the studio already set up. But I literally was like, I better eat something. And I have 10 minutes to move them, move a mic and a mic stand. And, I don't even have the room properly sound treated, in that everything's like mobile sound treatment or movable sound treatment. So like I'm constantly moving these things around. I was doing that today. And I was like, I got to stop doing this. Anyway, it's You made me think of how important it can be because content is time consuming, how important it can be to have things set up and ready to go all the time as much as you can, right?
I mean, dude, you say that my our apartment is also a mess. Like I'm in our living room right now, but the mic stand is always set up. So we have a mic stand with a shield and a pop filter. That's basically always set up. So that's ready to go. And our interface is here. So we can record demos pretty seamlessly, but my bass guitar is off in the corner, the piano is off in the corner. Like we used to have sound panels around, but because this is a living room, we want to make it somewhat livable. So there's none of that. But for real recording, like for stuff off my record, I'm just gonna go to the recording studio. All of my demos are done here. Having things done seamlessly, I mean, I guess that's a privilege. There's a lot of people that just don't. But the joy of having like portable stuff though now, right? Like you can take your laptop and go somewhere if you really want to record something different. Before I had a just a regular computer, but now having a MacBook has changed the game a lot.
Yeah. I know my life is so hard, right?
Don't take that as a diss.
No, I mean, it's a good point. It's so easy, but it's also really easy if you're not focused on one thing. Because as soon as I started, sharing that with you, I was thinking about these YouTubers who like that's all they do, or a podcaster, and that's the audio thing that they do. I think what makes my situation more difficult for me, the thing I've done to myself to make it more difficult is I play drums. I really found that I love the whole engineering of a drum recording. And there's a lot of mics involved, even for a relatively small drum kit. And then I have enough space to be able to have pre-show rehearsals here. So yeah, I bring this shit on myself, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the wrong though, because I find for me like the recording aspect is totally fine because there's no video involved. But as soon as I got to record a video, I'm like, man, I just recorded there. I can't record there again. It's gonna get boring. Like, where can I go to record? So I'm always like, and this isn't the best interesting space to look at like when you're recording. We don't really have we don't really have like a video spot, and so much of the world now is video. So
We,
yeah.
we we both need to invest in a green screen, if we're making it all different every time, right?
Yeah, no, for sure, man.
So what a question I had here I wanted to ask is what's been your biggest challenge as of late?
Man, maybe like connecting with other artists. That's been more difficult than you would think. A lot of artists, or maybe you wouldn't think, but a lot of artists have sort of a crab bucket mentality. And so, you know, you're not going to get famous before I get famous type of ideal. I want to see people win, man. Like the people I work with, like I'm happy when they get something. I'm like, man, that's so cool. Um, and I think it's just being comfortable as an artist where I don't feel the need to be like, obviously like I want to be competitive in the sense of like that I win and I get my wins, but I have no problem bringing other people along for wins. So that's been probably I think the biggest challenge right now, man, is just finding other artists both in the internet world and also in the local scene. The local scene is very much like that too. So yeah, it's very easy when you're an artist to feel alone.
Is that when you're trying to reach them? Is that for collaborative purposes or maybe doing shows together?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I cut you off. You were talking about it's easy to feel alone and
No, that's fine. Yeah, it's just something that like um we've been feeling a lot lately is this sort of feeling alone in sort of the our own music world.
yeah. I have found recently I was reminded because of meeting some people here that, when you do work with anyone, whatever, in whatever capacity, we eventually run into these people who are just super supportive, and they want to like connect you with others, and like, or have you up on stage, or, just no fear in terms of like you're some sort of competition that's going to do something before they are. And then, yeah, I guess it just leads to opportunities to just be friendly with one another just for the sake of doing that, and and expressing that same level of support for the other artists. And it seems to work pretty well. But you're right. It's very common for other players or musicians, artists, to be a little standoffish if they don't know you, or maybe don't know your motives, and maybe they've got a bit of an inaccurate perception of could actually be gained just from having the relationship, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. There is very much like some opportunities that could happen, but because they're, and I get it, like in the world of music, you get burned a lot. It's very easy to be just like shut off, and it makes it that much harder to keep wanting to connect with other artists. You're like, well, why should I bother? They're just gonna crab bucket me again. So
I love that phrase, crab bucket.
yeah, but it's so real, man. Yeah, like that's what this is. It's a crab bucket.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for you this year?
It's busy now, man. Spend all this time working on the record. I'm really proud of. Just gonna continue to, well, we shot a music video for two songs actually, but they're gonna go in tandem. So there's sort of like it's one story, but it's two music videos. So that's cool. It's something different. But yeah, this is the year of the new album. So we're just gonna continue rolling it out and doing stuff, and hopefully doing shows around the city, and definitely got my sights set on some bigger shows elsewhere this year. So gonna do everything I can to make that happen. But yeah, it's just the year of new music, man.
Nice. And what is the official release date for the latest one?
Oh, I don't even know.
Soon, or maybe it's weeks off.
Oh, it's months off, man. I'm just enjoying releasing the music. I don't have, when I did phone calls with Ghost, I sort of had rules, and I had a set deadline of when I was going to drop the album. But now nothing really matters in the music world. You can make your own rules. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going with it. I'm just going to continue dropping songs. Almost every song is you're going to hear before, like it's going to be a single. There's going to be some sort of visual attached to it. It's just going to be like month after month, new music. So we're just going to keep that rolling. So, I mean, definitely at the end of the year, there will be the release of it. So,
Sounds like a good plan. All right, so I know it's crossedoutmusic.com where they can find out about everything you're doing, including the singles forthcoming.
yeah,
And it was good talking with you.
it's good talking with you, man. It's nice to catch up.
Indeed. If you do not yet have a website for your music, check out Bandzoogle. It was created to help musicians and bands build their website and manage direct-to-fan marketing and sales. Bandzoogle features amazing design options, a commission-free store to sell merch, music, tickets, and you get detailed fan data. And there's more. Try it free at bandzoogle.com. Use the promo code ROBONZO, that's ROBONZO, to get 15% off your first year. Thank you again for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of The Unstarving Musician, please follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also leave us feedback at unstarvingmusician.com/feedback. Find links for people and things mentioned in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com. Peace, gratitude, and a whole lot of love.